President Uhuru Kenyatta vows to oversee a seamless transition to the next government as the Azimio la Umoja side still question the ruling of the Supreme Court. We have these and more stories on our broadcast tonight, and we will be engaging a constitutional lawyer and political analyst, George Ogubi, to just talk about matters transitions. Good evening and welcome to News Watch. I'm Tony Omondi, and our sign language interpreter is Boniface Murithi. Let's begin our broadcast. Now, the Supreme Court has today unanimously upheld the election of President-elect William Ruto in a comprehensive ruling that saw petitioners' prayers to the court struck out. This now paves the way for William Ruto to be sworn in as president on Tuesday, 13th August 2022. In the ruling, Chief Justice Martha Koome, while issuing orders, clarified that the ruling was a unanimous decision of the court. In the orders, petition number E005 of 2022, as consolidated with other petitions, were dismissed by the court. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Chairman Wafula Chebukati, on August 15th, 2022, declared William Ruto the winner of the 2022 general election. CJ Koome, in dismissing the petition, said the petitioners failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that there was electoral malpractices to warrant annulment of the election.
Given the numbers that were presented to us by IEBC and the chairperson, this would translate to 14,213,137 divided by 2 plus 1, which makes 7.106569. The question that must inevitably follow is whether this formula, when applied, will confirm that 7,106,569 votes is less than 7.176,141, which represents the number of votes received by the first respondent. We find that it is, as such, on the basis of the foregoing formula and from the numbers provided by IEBC and the chairperson and the declaration by the chairperson of the president-elect on 15th August 2022, it is our finding that the declared president-elect attained 50% plus 1 of all the votes cast in accordance with Article 138(4) of the Constitution.
The Supreme Court delivered the long-awaited judgment today, upholding the election of Deputy President William Ruto as Kenya's 5th president. The 7-judge bench, led by Chief Justice Martha Koome, gave the IEBC technology, which was one of the most contested issues, a clean bill of health, saying the technological infrastructure met the standards of integrity, verifiability, security, and transparency to guarantee accurate and verifiable results. The CJ said the bench was not persuaded by the allegation that the technology deployed had failed. Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga, who filed the petition challenging the victory of President-elect William Ruto, had claimed that the technology deployed by the Electoral Commission had massive shortcomings, which ended up denying him his victory. Grace Wangoi has this report.
A review of some of the logs presented as evidence of staging showed that they were either from logs arising from the 2017 presidential election or were outright forgeries. In our considered view, there was no evidence of a man-in-the-middle server configured to the IEBC's VPN network, and no evidence was produced to show that the chairperson of IEBC and staff were part of the arranged conspiracy to stage the transmission process. 9, whether there was a difference between Forms 34A, uploaded on the IEBC public portal, and the Forms 34A received at the National Tallying Center, and Forms 34A issued to the agents at the polling stations. On this issue, The first petitioner's case was that there was deliberate manipulation and tampering with Forms 34A, as demonstrated in the affidavits, to the effect that votes were being deducted from the first petitioner and being added to the first respondent. To support this petition, evidence was contained in the affidavits of Honorable Martha Karua, sworn on 21st August 2022, Celestine Anyango Opio, Arnold Ochieng Oginga, and John Mark Githongo, which was sworn also on 21st August 2022, and a further affidavit sworn on 28th August 2022. Dr. Nyangasi also swore an affidavit on 21st August 2022, and so was Martin Papa, to support that allegation of handing and subtraction of votes.
The Supreme Court defended the postponement of election in Kakamega and Mombasa counties and that of 4 other constituencies, saying they were necessitated by a genuine mistake. CJ Martha Koome said the court found that by virtue of Section 55B of the Election Act 2011, IEBC had the requisite power to postpone election in the 2 counties, constituencies and wards in question. This even as top court said there was no proof of voter suppression, while Odinga had alleged that the postponement of the election caused voter suppression and was meant to disadvantage him in his strongholds. IEBC dismissed the allegations in their responses.
We've looked at the provisions of Section 55B of the Elections Act, which provides for circumstances when elections can be postponed in a particular electoral unit, including in cases of emergency. We are therefore satisfied that on the basis of the foregoing provision, the third respondent and the requisite power to postpone election in the constituencies, counties, and wards in question. Concerning the allegation of voter suppression, we note that voter suppression is generally recognized as a political strategy which takes many forms, but whose practical effect is ultimately to reduce voting by deliberately discouraging or preventing targeted groups of people from exercising their right to vote, and thereby to influence the outcome of an election. It therefore goes against the letter and the spirit of Article 38, which guarantees every citizen the right to make political choices based on universal suffrage. As regards this allegation, it has not been shown that by postponing elections in the named electoral units, IEBC acted in bad faith or was influenced by irrelevant factors and considerations. From the explanation tendered, we are satisfied that the postponement was occasioned by a genuine mistake, which in our view could have been avoided had the members and staff of IEBC been more diligent when they went to inspect the templates in Athens, Greece, where the printing of ballot papers was undertaken.
Our President Uhuru Kenyatta has vowed to ensure a seamless transition to the next administration. Speaking in a televised address, the President, who promised to uphold the rule of law, said he will respect the ruling of the Supreme Court on the election of William Ruto as President. The President, however, did not congratulate Ruto, but commended Kenyans for upholding peace throughout the election process. He also called on Kenyans to respect public institutions mandated to spur the growth of a democracy.
Today, the Supreme Court made a ruling on the presidential dispute, upholding the results announced by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission on the 15th of August, 2022. And in keeping to the pledge that I made to uphold the rule of law when I took the oath of office, I commit to executing the orders of this court to the letter. The process of handing over is in progress through the Assumption of Office Committee, which actually has already begun its work as of August 10th, 2022. And indeed, it is my intention to oversee a smooth transition to the next administration, and all the necessary orders to facilitate this process have already been issued. And because democracy is a work in progress, I urge the country to respect the institutions that midwife our new leaders. And in doing so, I also urge citizens to constantly put them under scrutiny, for this is the civic duty of every single Kenyan. In particular, this civic duty requires every citizen to constantly put the truth presented by our constitutional institutions to test. And they must test them for coherence, but also for correspondence. I want to take this opportunity to thank every single Kenyan for holding a peaceful election. And for this, I want to thank God, and I want to thank our political parties, but I also want to thank every single individual Kenyan for bringing us thus far. I want to wish well all who have won as they guide our country into the future. And I thank you all for the opportunity to serve, and I say, may God bless you all, and may God bless this great Republic of Kenya.
And President-elect William Ruto has welcomed the Supreme Court ruling where the 7-judge bench unanimously upheld his election. Speaking from his official residence in Karen after the verdict, Ruto lauded the judges for their firmness and fidelity to the rule of law. Ruto further stated that he will take the initiative to call outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta to discuss matters transition. At the same time, Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gachagua hailed Ruto for beating all odds to win the presidential election. As Kennedy Kimani reports, Ruto has extended a hand of brotherhood to all his competitors and their supporters, urging them to unite and make Kenya a nation that everyone shall be proud to call home.
In his speech after the Supreme Court upheld his victory in the just concluded presidential election, President-elect William Ruto hailed the judiciary, terming it as the hero of Kenya's democracy, rule of law and constitutionalism.
But this afternoon, with the unanimous decision of the Supreme Court of Kenya, our lengthy, suspenseful, and protracted election has come to an end. My fellow presidential candidates and I made our respective cases before Kenyans and submitted ourselves to their sovereign decision at the ballot. After the results of the vote were declared, it was taken up before the Supreme Court for scrutiny to make sure, beyond all doubt, that the will of the people had prevailed. The court returned its verdict, and I welcome it with tremendous humility.
Ruto further said that he will take the initiative to call outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta so as to discuss matters transition.
I will shortly be putting a call to my good friend, President Uhuru Kenyatta. We have not we have not I haven't talked to him in months. But shortly I will be putting a call to him so that we can have a conversation on the process of transition.
Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gachagua hailed Ruto for beating all odds to win the presidential election, at the same time calling upon Kenyans to support them so as to take back the economy to where former President Mwai Kibaki left it.
And I must say that we have seen the heart of God all through for the last 4.5 years. It's been a long and a tedious journey. Against all the odds, against serious mobilization and weaponization of the state machinery, today, the son of an ordinary Kenyan, whose father and mother are not known, is the President of the Republic of Kenya.
Ruto further extended a hand of brotherhood to all his competitors and their supporters, urging them to unite and make Kenya a nation everyone shall be proud to call home.
I congratulate all patriotic Kenyans who presented themselves as presidential candidates. It is not an easy decision, and a national campaign is not a walk in the park at best. I want all of you to know that your effort is acknowledged and deeply appreciated. Wahiga Mwaure and Ruth Musheru, George Wajakoya and Justina Wamai, the Honorable Raila Odinga and the Honorable Martha Karua. May the spirit of love for country and selfless service lie long in your hearts, and may Almighty God always remember you.
With the highest court of the land bringing to a closure the election cycle in the country, by unanimously upholding President-elect William Ruto's win, Ruto has pledged to make Kenya a country for everyone, even as he awaits his swearing in and that of his deputy Rigathi Gachagua on Tuesday next week. Kennedy Kimani, Hope TV Newswatch, at the Deputy President residence in Karen, Nairobi County.
Our President-elect William Ruto is set to be sworn in on Tuesday next week after the Supreme Court upheld his win as the winner of the 9th August general election. Chief Justice Martha Koome led the 7-judge bench sitting at the Milimani Law Courts on Monday at noon, where she ruled that Ruto attained the 50% plus one vote of votes cast as announced by the IEBC. And as Dickens Levander reports, Koome summarized the court's judgment, saying that a comprehensive verdict will be released in 21 days.
President-elect Deputy President William Ruto and his Kenya Kwanza alliance are celebrating after his win in the August 9th general elections was upheld by a 7-member judge bench in the Supreme Court, led by Chief Justice Martha Koome. Ruto, alongside his deputy president-elect Rigathi Gachagua, are expected to be sworn in on Tuesday, September 13th, the first Tuesday after the court delivers its verdict, following a presidential petition, as per the Constitution of Kenya.
Mine is to thank the court, to thank my learned friends for the effort we all expended.
Ruto will be taking over from Uhuru Kenyatta following the dismissal of the presidential petition against them by the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya leader Raila Odinga. At the center of the election dispute that will make Ruto Kenya's 5th president were 9 key issues, including the role of the IEBC commissioners in verifying and tallying the results,
the details of which remain scanty and contradictory between the chairperson of the commission and some of its members. In the absence of any evidence of violation of the Constitution and our electoral laws, how can we upset an election in which the people are participating without hindrance, as they made their political choices pursuant to Article 38 of the Constitution? To do this would be tantamount to subjecting the sovereign will of the Kenyan people to the quorum antics of IEBC. This we cannot do. Clearly, the current dysfunctionality at the Commission impugns the state of its corporate governance, but does not affect the conduct of the 2022 election. In view of the foregoing, we are satisfied that notwithstanding the divisions apparent between the chairperson and the 4 commissioners, IEBC carried out the verification, tallying, and declaration of results in accordance with Article 138(3)(c) and 10 of the Constitution.
7 petitioners asked the court to overturn Ruto's win over various grounds, but the judges unanimously dismissed all the grounds raised by the petitioners.
The presidential election petition number E005 of 2022, as consolidated with the presidential election petition numbers E001, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8 of 2022, are hereby dismissed. As a consequence, we declare the election of the first respondent as president-elect to be varied under Article 143 of the Constitution. This being a matter cutting across the public interest, we order that each party do bear their own costs.
Ruto is expected to be sworn in public at the Kasarani Stadium in Nairobi before the Chief Justice or the Deputy Chief Justice if the CJ is absent, where he will subscribe to the oath of allegiance and the oath of the execution of the function of the office of the president. Upon taking the oath, Ruto will sign a certificate of inauguration, while the outgoing President Kenyatta will hand over to him the instruments of power and authority, including a sword and the Constitution.
We have no option, good people. We have to deliver.
Deacons Luvanda, Hope TV News Watch.
Now, President-elect William Ruto's wife, Rachel Ruto, has written a hearty message to her husband following his confirmed victory today. In a tweet, the incoming First Lady congratulated Ruto in the message and Bible verse quote in the book of Hebrews chapter 10 verse 23 that says, "Let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep his promise." Rachel Ruto has positioned herself as a prayerful woman and a supportive wife, constantly calling for prayers at Ruto's current residence. In the run-up to the general election, Rachel Ruto called for a 40-day prayer and fasting for the election and the nation at large. At the same time, the Agano Party leader David Mwaure has congratulated President-elect William Ruto following a confirmation of his win by the Supreme Court this afternoon. In a statement, Mwaure said God has confirmed to them that indeed Ruto won the 2022 presidential election. The party also said it witnessed the victory from the Form 34As that were sent to the IEBC portal on the day of election. Mwaure had sought to file an appeal to join the petition, but his plea did not see the light of day. And Central Organization of Trade Unions COTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli has today congratulated President-elect William Ruto after the Supreme Court dismissed the petitions challenging his win. Taking to social media, Atwoli said he respects the Supreme Court's decision, calling on Kenyans to remain calm moving forward. He said the COTU Executive Board meeting on 17th August resolved to congratulate and thank the victor after the Supreme Court ruling. According to the Supreme Court, the petitioners did not have a watertight case against the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, Wafula Chebukati, and President-elect William Ruto. Meanwhile, Azimio la Umoja Deputy Presidential Candidate Martha Karua says she respects the decision of the Supreme Court to uphold Ruto's win, but disagrees with its findings. In a tweet, Karua said, and I quote, "The court has spoken. I respect but disagree with the findings." Raila Odinga and Martha Karua had moved to court seeking to annul William Ruto's election. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IBC Chairperson Wafula Chebukati, has decried harassment, intimidation and killing of its staff during the 2022 general election. Addressing the press, Chebukati highlighted various instances where the commission's staff were harassed as well as arrested and injured. The chairperson, who condemned the evils committed against IBC officials during this year's election, said he was physically assaulted together with Commissioners Boya Molu and Abdi Galia at the Bomas of Kenya just before the announcement of the presidential election results. He has bemoaned the fact that no one had been arrested in connection with the incident, noting that civil rights groups also remained silent over the said atrocities.
In the course of discharging our constitutional duty, the Commission and its staff endured harassment, intimidation, abduction, arrests, and some lost their lives. It's tragic that Mr. Daniel Mushoka, a returning officer for Embakasi East constituency, was abducted and tortured to death in the line of duty. In addition, Mr. Geoffrey Kitobu, a returning officer for Kishugu constituency, died in what could be election-related stress upon completion of elections in his constituency. In this general election, the abuse of IBC staff reached an unimaginable scale. Apart from the two deaths, the Commission and staff suffered other atrocities, including, but not limited to, assault and injury of the chairman, Commissioners Professor Abdi Gulia and Boya Molu, and the Commission Secretary and Chief Executive Officer Mr. Marjan Hussein at the National Tallying Center during the declaration of results. Unwarranted arrest of a voter education coordinator by anti-terrorist police unit on the floor of the National Tallying Center, who was detained for 3 days. Abduction, torturing, and holding incommunicado for 9 hours of the managed election operations and the support staff by persons to be believed to be security agencies. To date, no one has been arrested for these crimes committed against members of the Commission and its staff. Therefore, the Supreme Court judgment today is a testimony that the Commission conducted a free, fair, transparent, and credible general election that met the democratic aspirations of the people of Kenya. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is finally vindicated. We look forward to the full judgment of the Supreme Court, as well as feedback from our stakeholders during the post-election evaluation exercises which will inform areas of improvement in the electoral process.
All right, we want to take a short break on Hope TV News Watch tonight. When we come back, of course, we'll still be talking about matters Supreme Court and what transpired during the day. We have our specialist in the studio tonight. His name is George Ogubi, who is a constitutional lawyer and also a political analyst. We'll be talking about these matters when he comes back. In the meantime, keep texting us on 22232 if you have any questions. You can also tweet us at HopeTV_KE and at Tony Omondi_. And of course, we'll be able to sample some of your comments and read some of your questions here live on this television broadcast. So right now, we want to take a short commercial break. We'll be back. Do stay with Hope TV News Watch.
Ensuring good health and promoting well-being of all people is important in building a prosperous society. On Health Check, you get informed and empowered on various medical conditions, their treatment and preventive measures.
When you ignore gum disease, then the same tooth will start to appear slightly longer.
You also get your health question answered live by our doctors in studio.
The medication she's receiving is for the nostrils.
This child should be feeding enough to gain weight.
And you do a little bit of exercise. It even helps with the breast milk.
If you feel like you have an instinct that things aren't quite where they should be for your child, the onus is on you to seek an evaluation.
This is to help you make best choices about your health and your well-being. Stay tuned for brand new episodes of Health Check with me, Grace Mutiso, every Tuesday on Hope TV. Look and live.
We know you have great taste for music. And we do too.
I know who God says I am, what He says I am, where He says I'm at.
Enjoy all-time Christian hits every Tuesday from 12 p.m.
This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love.
On Hope Junction. Are you a talented youth between the ages of 18 and 24 years? The Rav. Can you sing? Can you dance? Wear Huchafua mic or any other performances? The Rav. Auditions will take place beginning in Kisumu on the 8th of September, followed by Mombasa, Nakuru, Eldoret, and Nairobi on dates to be communicated. The Rav is a chance to showcase your talent in music, dance, poetry, acrobatics, and more, and stand a chance to win 300,000 shillings, a recording deal at Hope Recording Studios, and many more prizes. To register, send an SMS starting with #The Rav with your name, county, and talent to 22232. That is 22232 to get an invite to auditions happening near you. For more information, please call 0709 861 223. That is 0709 861 223. Or log on to www.hopemediakenya.org for details. The Rav. Identifying talent, inspiring passion. Powered by Hope FM and Hope TV.
Coming up this September, CITAM Springboard Convention 2022 with fresh anointing to radiate God's glory as we reach out to the lost. Mark and save these dates from the 20th to the 24th September 2022 at CITAM Valley Road. The convention is themed Till the Whole World Hears and will definitely revive and uplift your faith. The Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 24 verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Get ready for the Springboard Convention 2022. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to Newswatch. The 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court today unanimously upheld President-elect William Ruto's win in the just concluded August 9th general election, bringing to an end the election cycle. In the verdict read by Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, Martha Koome, the highest court of the land determined that President-elect William Ruto met the 50% plus one vote as stipulated in the Constitution of Kenya, with the court stating that the petitioners did not provide watertight evidence to show that none of the candidates met the 50% plus one vote threshold. Supreme Court further reiterated that rejected votes cannot be taken into account when calculating whether a presidential candidate attained 50% plus one of the votes cast in accordance with Article 138 of the Constitution. Let's listen to what Kennedy Kimani had prepared for us earlier.
We declare the election of the first respondent as president-elect to be varied under Article 143 of the Constitution. This being a matter cutting across the public interest, we order that each party do bear their own costs. It is so ordered.
The 5th day of September 2022 brought about the culmination of the country's election cycle, with the 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court unanimously upholding the victory of William Ruto as the president-elect by dismissing all of the 9 petitions that had been presented before it to show the need to annul the presidential election.
We have deliberated on this proposition and found that it is not mathematically sound, and that the rounding off done by IBC and the chairperson was correct. Consequently, we find that the petitioners did not provide a watertight case to warrant the setting aside of the results of the presidential election on the basis of not having met the threshold provided under Article 138(4)(a) of the Constitution.
IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati declared William Ruto as the winner on the 15th of August after garnering 7,176,141 of the votes, representing 50.49% of the total votes cast. His main rival Raila Odinga got 6,942,930 votes, representing 48% of the votes cast.
In Raila Odinga and 5 others versus IEBC petition number 5, 3 and 4 of 2013, this court asserted that rejected ballot papers do not constitute a vote cast to be included in calculating the final tally in favor of a presidential candidate. We are not persuaded by amicus curiae's brief, that is Law Society, who attempted to persuade us to consider our position on this finding. We reiterate that rejected votes cannot be taken into account when calculating whether a presidential candidate attained 50% plus one of the votes cast in accordance with Article 138(4) of the Constitution.
The Supreme Court verdict now paves way for the swearing-in of President-elect William Ruto and Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gachagua, which will take place on the 13th of September, that is on Tuesday next week. Kennedy Kimani, Hope TV Newswatch, Nairobi.
Right, thank you so much, Kennedy Kimani, for that report. We, of course, saw what the Supreme Court decided today, and joining us in the studio tonight is George Ogobi, who is a political analyst and also a constitutional lawyer, to just talk about what happened in the Supreme Court today, the reactions that people had, and of course, what is happening across the political divide as far as the Supreme Court ruling is concerned. We saw that the 7-judge bench did deliver a ruling that upheld the election of William Ruto as president of this country. Welcome to the show tonight, Mr. George.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Yes, so what do you make of the Supreme Court ruling today?
I think I'll begin my discussion from the last talk that I had on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And the Supreme Court has done its constitutional duty.
Mm-hmm.
A petition was presented before the Supreme Court 14 days ago, and the Supreme Court had to deliver a judgment within the 14 days and deliver it within the constitutional times. Whether I agree or whether Kenyans agree with the decision that has been passed, it is something that, at least we've seen the reactions. There's a divide that has accepted the ruling, and of course there's another divide that has not agreed with the Supreme Court ruling. But by and large, the Supreme Court has just discharged its mandate, mm-hmm. and has midwifed what most politicians are saying, mm-hmm. or perhaps delivered the baby where it is, where the Supreme Court, in their own wisdom, thought the baby should be delivered.
Of course, this Supreme ruling has not sat well with a section of political leaders, of course, the two political sides. Would you say, in your opinion, that the Supreme Court delivered a judgment that will be acceptable by all the people that voted in August 9th?
Well, Tony, number one, we need to, first of all, agree that this was a competition. And in every competition, there has to be the winning side and the losing side. But by and large, I would say that Kenyans are the victors. We've experienced relative peace compared to previous elections. Whether the Supreme Court decision is the best decision that has ever been delivered is subject to the coming days. Of course, I know once they release the full judgment within the 21 days that is stipulated, many people would want to look at that judgment in detail, because what was delivered today was just perhaps a skeleton. You heard when the Chief Justice was starting the session today, she said that the full verdict or judgment will be sent or delivered within the 21 days provided by law. So we are waiting to see. It will be very interesting to see the judgment in detail, and perhaps we'll be able to scrutinize it.
We saw the Azimio side, of course, present what people would call a canter of evidence to the Supreme Court, and most of those evidences have been dismissed today. Why do you think, or maybe why didn't Azimio la Umoja, together with the other petitioner, have a watertight case against IEBC, Wafula Chebukati, and the other relevant parties?
Well, in my own assumption, I would say the Supreme Court raised the bar. When you talk about the evidence, I think the Supreme Court, in their own wisdom, raised the evidentiary bar. It raised the scale, such that you know sometimes you look at an election petition, you ask yourself whether it's a civil matter or even a criminal matter, and in those two matters, the standard, the burden, the standard of proof. When you come to civil matters, the standard of proof is on a scale of probability. But when you go to criminal matters, the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. What we saw today at the Supreme Court is that they have raised the bar of proving, when you file a presidential election petition, the bar for me today, when I looked at, when I read in brief that judgment, I believe the Supreme Court, in their own wisdom, have raised the scale of proving that there are election irregularities when it comes to a presidential election petition.
When you say the bar has been raised, actually, what really do you mean? Because we saw the presentation by this lawyer, Julie Soweto, and there was a demonstration at the court. There was a demonstration on screen, and the judges could see and everyone could see. And maybe I would refer to the judgment of the Supreme Court, and on question number 2 that CJ Martha Koome stated, the question was whether there was interference with the uploading and transmission of Form 34A from the polling station to the IEBC public portal. And the answer that the Supreme Court gave is that no credible evidence was presented to the court to establish there was any interference with the uploading and transmission of Forms 34A from the polling station to the IEBC public portal. So what does it mean in raising this bar while there was a demonstration in court? Was that not sufficient enough?
Well, why I'm saying the Supreme Court raised the bar in terms of the evidence that you present when you file a presidential election petition is because the demonstrations that were presented before, I think the Supreme Court, in their own wisdom, questioned further. It is not enough that you show us things, forms on the screen, forms that are uploaded on the IEBC portal. I think the Supreme Court questioned further. It interrogated that evidence. It interrogated it in totality, and perhaps they were saying, can you give us evidence to show that indeed this form was uploaded? Can you even mention the person who uploaded it? Can you give us a track? Can you give us... That's why I'm saying the Supreme Court raised the bar in terms of proving a presidential election petition. Because some of the things, some of the allegations that were raised, that the petitioners were relying on to nullify the election, some of them bordered between criminal, they had some criminal element. When you talk about forgery, that's criminal in nature, and you have to prove that indeed forgery happened. So I think the Supreme Court was balancing between civil, the evidence of proof, the burden of proof when it comes to a civil claim, and the burden of proof when it comes to a criminal claim. And that is why in their final verdict, they said that the petitioners did not meet the constitutional threshold of nullifying a presidential election. I believe they raised the bar in terms of evidence.
At some point, the court said that maybe the documents or the evidence were forged, some of the documents that are presented in court. In law, do you think maybe there is any action that the court can take against the IEBC or against the petitioners that presented the said documents that are alleged to have been forged?
Well, Tony, that is a very interesting question because some of the evidence that the Supreme Court was presented with, they ended up noting in their judgment that some of them could have been forged, some of them could have been falsified. It will be very interesting in the coming days to see whether, because both of those statements bring out an issue of criminality. So it will be very interesting to see whether in the coming days action will be taken against persons who are alleged to have forged one document or another, or perhaps presented fake documents before the Supreme Court. So it will be very interesting to see that.
So it is possible for the Supreme Court to take further action?
Yes, it is possible. If the Supreme Court in their own wisdom feels that action needs to be taken against persons who are alleged to have presented fake documents before it, or perhaps forged one or two documents, then the Supreme Court can decide in its own wisdom or lack of it to perhaps proceed and take action against, because that is contempt. When you present a forged document in court, in essence, what you are doing is contempt of court. Whether the Supreme Court wants to take action in the nature of contempt of court against persons who are alleged to have presented these documents or evidence before it is a matter that we'll see in the coming days.
What about the IEBC? Are they allowed to go back to court and sue the petitioners for presenting maybe fake documents or maybe bringing up allegations that are not there, unfounded allegations?
Yes, yes. If the IEBC decides that they want to take further action against persons who are alleged to have presented these documents before the Supreme Court, with the intention of perhaps IEBC would sit and say the presentation of those forgeries and fake documents which the Supreme Court alleged to have been forgeries and fakes, they would perhaps in their own wisdom say that let us take action against it, because if these people presented forgeries and fake documents, we can pursue that, that line of action.
Do you think the Supreme Court had really enough time to determine this particular case?
Well, many have argued that 14 days is not enough, because if you look at one of the orders, or perhaps one of the issues that the Supreme Court directed was scrutiny of the votes, you saw they could not do a recount. I think in their scrutiny of the votes, they did a selection of about 15 polling stations or thereabout. But whether 14 days is enough to hear and determine a presidential election petition, when the petition was starting, one of the judges, Supreme Court Judge Isaac Lenaola, hinted that 14 days is perhaps a short period for you to hear and determine a presidential election petition, depending on the orders that are being sought by the petitioners and the directions that the court will give. Because if they decided to do a recount, maybe across all the polling stations, the 46,000 plus polling stations in the country, it would have not been enough to finish that process and perhaps give a report. Yes.
Take us through the process. What happens at the Supreme Court? Like for example, this particular case, we saw the filing of the case, and then now on Tuesday, we had the pre-trial hearings on Monday, and then on Tuesday, the submissions began on Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday. When do the judges really sit down to begin writing the ruling? Does it begin on the day that the hearing ends, or maybe it begins throughout the proceedings?
What normally happens is that once the chair of IEBC declares the results, whoever feels aggrieved with what has been announced or declared has 7 days within which to file the petition. In this case, you saw it was towards the last day that the petition was filed. And then the law provides that once the petition is filed, then the Supreme Court has got 14 days to hear and determine the petition. So immediately the petition is filed, then of course there are those interlocutory, what the law terms as interlocutory application, which the Supreme Court said they dealt with about 25 or 24 interlocutory applications, which were before now the main petition would begin. This time round, we saw about seven petitions, I think 7 or 8 petitions, or rather 9 petitions filed against the president-elect and also the IEBC. The Supreme Court consolidated them and then framed issues. And then now the first day of the hearing, once the filing is done, when the Supreme Court is giving directions and dealing with the interlocutory applications, we have the first day where there's a pretrial conference to make sure that the mood for the hearing of the main petition is set. Everything has been dealt with. The interlocutory application has been dealt with. Parties who want to join the petition are there. Parties who are not supposed to be in the petition are rejected. Like, for example, the application by Honorable Moses Kuria that was rejected. He wanted to be, he was suing the petitioners in the lead petition against the violence that happened at Bomas. So the initial stages, what we might call the pre-trial conferencing, is to set the mood. Then we have 3 days within which now the hearing starts, where the petitioners present their case. Then the following day, we have the respondents responding to what the petitioners raised. And then now the final day, now we have now the petitioners doing what we call a rejoinder, so that if there are any gray areas or if there's anything that the respondents have touched on, they bring and give clarity. Then once that is done, then the judges retire to go and write the final judgment. But what is interesting is that even when you look at the previous petitions, is that the judges will not read. They will tell you that the final judgment will be delivered within the 21 days that is required by law. So what they deal with is the pertinent issues to make sure that what is supposed to be determined, the final verdict, is delivered, and then now the detailed judgment will be delivered within the 21 days.
Okay, so let's move on. We've seen the Azimio side say that they accept the ruling, but they do not agree with the decisions of the court. What does this mean?
Well, what it means is that the Azimio side have respected the institution, the judiciary, because we live we live in a democratic society where a decision might go your way, and at the same time a decision might not go your way. So respecting the decision of the Supreme Court, what the Azimio One Kenya coalition is saying, that we respect the institution, and I think the independence of the institution has been respected, but they disagree with the findings of the court as much as they respect. So I believe it is just the respect that they have for the institution, and of course the respect that they have for each other and for the other competitors.
But there's nothing they can do moving forward in terms of that decision of the Supreme Court?
Well, that is something we'll be looking at to see what actions or what steps perhaps the leader of Azimio, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, would do. He has given a statement, of course accepting, but disagreeing with the judgment. And of course, he has said that in the coming days, he's going to release statements on the next step that he's going to take. So it will be very interesting to see. But whether they have further redress or further recourse, I would say no, because when you look at the provisions of the Constitution, it says that once the Supreme Court renders the judgment, that judgment is final. So whether they have another redress to a further court or the same court, that is no.
Talking about Raila Odinga, he has unsuccessfully vied for 5 times for this particular seat presidency. What next for him now that this particular election has been lost?
Well, it will be very interesting to see, because that decision is solely on him and perhaps those around him and advising him. After trying to run for the presidency for about, this was the 5th time, and he has become unsuccessful. So the decision that Raila will take, because what is expected of him is that he's supposed to run, as things are, he's expected to run the opposition side of the divide. So because, of course, President-elect William Ruto has already stated that he does not believe in handshakes, but believes in a strong opposition that will keep the the government in check. So if Raila accepts the role of opposition, then it will be interesting to see whether he will mount and lead the opposition. But whether his supporters will agree, it's again another, because Raila for many years has said that he listens to his supporters. So it will be interesting to see whether his supporters will also give him the nod to lead the opposition going forward.
You're talking about the opposition. We saw, of course, from 2018 when the handshake came, Deputy President, who is President-elect right now, William Ruto, came to object it, and he said that the handshake put him out of government, and he could not discharge his roles as Deputy President effectively because of the handshake. So from 2018 till now, the Kenya Kwanza side has always said that the opposition has been in government, the opposition has been weak. Do you think Raila is going to make a very strong opposition leader right now in Ruto's government?
Again, that is something to be very keen and watch in the coming days, because if you look at post-handshake,
yes,
many would actually have said that it is Deputy President William Ruto who was actually in opposition. What he was saying, his actions, most of the things that he was saying were taken to be actions or perhaps omissions that were opposing the actions of government, and you could see that is why they had that strained relationship with his principal, President Uhuru Kenyatta. So it would be interesting to see whether, of course, you consider his age. For you to lead opposition, we will consider his age, and that is why I alluded to the fact and said it's a personal decision on Raila, whether he still wants to be in the political field, whether he wants to run opposition. That is, again, a personal decision on him. And over and above that, for him to also mount a strong opposition, which you've asked, again, also depends on his supporters, whether his supporters will look at him and say, you know what, let us still support the Right Honorable Raila Odinga so that he can lead and mount a good opposition. The other option that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga has is also to, perhaps he can mold somebody now who can be able to mount a strong opposition. That's again an option that he has. You remember in 2002, when he said Kibaki Tosha, he was supposed to have run for presidency. He weighed the options at that time. He looked at the circumstances and said, if I run, perhaps we'll lose this thing. So the good thing for me, perhaps, let me say, Kibaki Tosha. So probably even in opposition, he will say so-and-so Tosha, who can mount up a strong and effective opposition going forward.
Okay. And let's briefly talk about Ruto's speech today. He said that he will not accept any kind of handshake with Raila Odinga, but he said he wants him to work in the opposition because he believes in the power of a strong opposition in terms of accountability to the government. Why is Ruto adamant about a handshake?
I think he's coming from what happened in 2018 in March when President Uhuru Kenyatta decided to shake hands with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and him saying that he does not believe in the handshake has always been his campaign platform. When he started campaigning and traversing the country, he has always said that he does not believe in the handshake, but believes in a government that is checked by a very strong, vibrant opposition. And probably the other thing that he's also saying that he wouldn't want to do a handshake with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and perhaps any other person that is in opposition. It's because I think he has given the reasons at his speech, and he's saying that why should I work, and at the same time he's telling Kenyans that I want somebody who will tell me, perhaps that is what he's saying, that when I do something wrong or when my government does something wrong, there's somebody somewhere who can do the checks and balances. So it will be very interesting to see. But one thing for sure is that going forward, he's now a president-elect, very soon to be sworn in next week on Tuesday. He's going to be a president for all Kenyans.
Yes.
Notwithstanding that people voted for him, people did not vote for him. Those who supported it, he actually even said it in the speech that many people think that if you did not support a regime to get into government, perhaps we will revenge. I think he has said that now and again, even in his campaigns, that he doesn't plan on revenging. But those are things now that we'll see unfold as he takes over the presidency.
Do you feel that Raila Odinga has successfully been a leader of opposition as opposed maybe to something that we have not seen becoming a president?
Many have said that Right Honorable Raila Odinga is best placed when serving in opposition. If you look at history, I'll remind you his father. Look at the tracks of the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga opposed government. Even when he served as vice president, he resigned and went and formed opposition. And if you look at Raila's political career, he has always served in opposition. Only when he was prime minister of the republic. But even when he was prime minister, he could raise complaints here and there. But he has done so much serving in opposition, and I believe Kenyans will remember him for serving in the opposition.
Yes. Yeah. Let's talk about William Ruto. He has come from a very humble background. He says, hustler-in-chief. And of course, from a chicken seller, a charcoal seller, and now the president-elect. He has vied once and gotten the presidency. What makes him so unique?
I'll make a joke about that. In fact, when I was coming here, somebody was telling me that this God that William Ruto worships, he has done so much for him that he would want to meet that God that William Ruto worships. It is true that he presented that narrative. If you look at election cycles, I will take you back. If you look at election cycles, there has always been something. There has always been a campaign platform. At a time in Kenya, there was a campaign platform on the basis of tribalism, and people could win or lose elections on that basis, because then if you have a majority of persons from one tribe who then vote for you, you manage to get the presidency. But then again, you come to this election and you saw the narrative was between the hustlers and the dynasties. So we have shifted. I think Kenya, as much as the tribal card was still there, because Kenya was founded on tribalism, and uprooting that perhaps is a big challenge. But we saw a bit of a shift in paradigm from the tribal card, as much as it also played a role. But then again, the dimension of the hustler dynasty came in, and William Ruto was able to present this picture of somebody who relates with the common mwananchi, with the bottom-up economic model. And you saw these are the people who majorly turn out to go and vote. So William Ruto pulled that card so that these are the people who will majorly come out to vote. And most of perhaps the assumption at that time, and it has come to reality, is that perhaps these people who consider themselves dynasties sometimes don't come out to vote for, to participate in the election. They are like, let other people go and vote. But when he pulled out that card, he noticed where majority of the votes are. He said that majority of the votes are with the hustler people. And if I can relate with them, if I can tell them my story, if I can give them a background of where I've come, then perhaps I would get a chunk of the votes to propel me to the presidency.
Aside from the hustler story, this is a man that was never supported by President Uhuru Kenyatta. We saw, of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta endorse Raila Odinga, and Ruto was solely on his own. He expected Uhuru Kenyatta to to endorse him, but he said in his speech today that he did not give President Kenyatta any conditions when he chose to support him in 2013. Do you believe in this thing that Ruto says, the system and the dynasty that are non-existent?
That's a very interesting question. When it comes to the relationship between the president, President Uhuru Kenyatta, the outgoing president, and the president-elect, Dr. William Ruto, it is not new in politics. We have seen the founding father, the late Kenyatta, disagreed with some of his vice president. When Moi took over, he disagreed with some of his vice presidents. Perhaps where we saw a bit of calm was the Kibaki era when he served with Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, where there was no much differences between the president at that time and the vice president. Whether it was there, perhaps they played it cool. But what has, even when you go to other countries, there are heads of state who have had to have issues with their principal, what we call the deputy president or the vice president, depending on which jurisdiction you are in. So what happened between the president and his deputy is not something new. But what really still remains a puzzle to Kenya is that there was no clarity as to really what transpired between the two, to an extent that they cannot sit eye to eye and have a conversation and even lead this country, to even an extent where the deputy president was seen to be the leader of the official opposition, but sitting as a deputy president. So it will be very interesting to even see what will transpire between president-elect and, of course, his deputy president-elect going forward. Will they move away from what we saw between 2017 and now, or will they also have their issues, and then we'll see those issues playing out in public?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's something very unique that I picked out from Ruto's speech today at Karen. If you look previously, Ruto's statements in political campaigns and how he used to talk to the president or used to address the president is very different from how he addressed him today. I don't know whether you picked that, because he said that we will support the outgoing president and we will also honor him, something that is really unique, something that we could not hear from his speeches in campaign. In campaigns, he would say things like Maliza Uende. So what is so different now?
What is so different between the Ruto that spoke today and the Ruto in the campaigns is that during campaigns, you play politics. You want to hit at everything that comes your way. Anything that will give you the vote, you play politics. You remember the outgoing president, Uhuru Kenyatta, when he was campaigning and he was running against Raila, the kind of words that he was using against Raila at that time when he was campaigning. But immediately he got the seat, you know what, my brother. That is what, and actually I wouldn't be surprised. Many political analysts have said, please do not be surprised when either Raila reaches out to Ruto or Ruto reaches out to Raila, because we are one in this country. And in politics, they say there's no permanent friend and there's no permanent enemy. So it might not even be a surprise that the two will reach out to each other and have a conversation. You remember before the results were declared, President-elect Ruto said that morning, the person that he called first was the Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and they had a conversation and said whichever way the decision will be declared by the IEBC, they'll have to move forward as a country. So looking at Ruto who spoke today, the Ruto who spoke today was, the job is now finished. We have come from a long race, a competition, where we threw words at each other, threw jabs at each other, but now the journey is over and we need to move forward. I think that picture of him becoming now a president for all is coming in, and he's realizing now, as much as I had a team that propelled me to the presidency, once I'm sworn in and once I ascend to power, I have to take care of all Kenyans.
Okay. As we wound up the interview, President Uhuru Kenyatta also spoke today. I hope you saw his speech. He was not really elated, as one would, even just getting the mood of his speech today. What do you make of the mood of President Uhuru Kenyatta today when he said he is ready to oversee a successful transition to the next government?
Well, I think President Uhuru Kenyatta, just like any other Kenyan who supported the Azimio One Kenya alliance, was a bit disappointed. And I think that is what played out during his speech today, because before the election, he declared his preferred candidate after many thought that he would endorse the president-elect William Ruto. So what just played out today is just an expression of disappointment as somebody who supported the Azimio One Kenya alliance.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
In the president's speech today, when he said, I am willing to hand over power to the next regime peacefully, is it something that is unique now, owing to how elections have been conducted in Kenya and transitions have been conducted in this country? Is it something unique we're seeing today, and is this the right step towards the growth of this democracy?
In fact, I think what has happened during this period is a growth in the democracy of our nation, where, and in fact, the president, in his own words previously, he has said that he doesn't want to be seen as somebody who undermines the independence of our institution. He wants to be somebody who respects the institutions that are in place. And when you heard him talk today, he said that he respects the decision of the Supreme Court, and he will do every other thing in his power to make sure that the transition is smooth. In fact, he even went further to say that he has given the several orders necessary for that transition. So what has just happened now, and even the peace that we have, in fact, I tell you, the biggest winners of these elections are Kenyans. As much as there was that tension, as much as there was that period of uncertainty, but Kenyans have been able to remain peaceful, Kenyans have been able to remain calm, Kenyans have been able to move on, to go about their normal duties, despite that period of tension and uncertainty. So the biggest winners, despite everything that has been happening, are the Kenyans and the Kenyans in general.
That's right.
Despite, you look at the president, and the president is saying, you know what, yes, my term has ended, and contrary to beliefs and what you've already heard since the results were declared, I am willing to hand over power and give a smooth transition so that the next crop of leaders, the next regime, can be able to form government and serve the people of Kenya.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, moving forward, we have two factions here, and this is your final remark. We have two factions here. We have the side that has won, the Ruto side. We have the other side of Raila Odinga that feel like they have lost the election. Their leader has not yet addressed them officially to give them a way forward. So how do we move forward as a country from this particular moment whereby the Supreme Court has rendered its ruling? There are people who are anxious about it. There are people that were expectant about it. So how do we move on as a country? How do we continue to coexist peacefully despite the political differences that we have as Kenyans?
First, I would urge Kenyans now to put the elections behind us. Elections have come. Kenyans went out to go and vote. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission did their part. They announced, the president-elect was announced and declared. We've had another process, the judicial process, challenging the validity of the election. Again, that process has ended. So what I would urge Kenyans to do is let us put the elections and the judicial process behind us. let us remember that so-and-so is my neighbor. Let us remember that it was a political competition, that they are going to emerge as, they are going to be winners, and those who will feel that they have lost. But we need to move forward as a country. We've had issues with our economy. We've just come from the COVID-19 pandemic. We've had an election period for quite a number of years, months, if not years. So I think Kenyans now need to go back to work and just make sure that there's peace. You coexist with your neighbor, with your colleague in the office, and let us build this country.
Yes, thank you so much. It is your responsibility to ensure that there is peace in this country. That has been George Ogubi, a constitutional lawyer, just speaking to us on Newswatch tonight on what transpired during the day, and of course, just taking a look at that Supreme Court ruling that upheld the election of Dr. William Ruto as president-elect. Thank you so much, Mr. George, for making time for us on Newswatch.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Now I want to move on to our next stories, where leaders in Taita Taveta County say they have accepted the ruling of the Supreme Court that upheld President-elect William Ruto's win in the August presidential election. Led by Governor Andrew Madimet, the leaders affiliated to Azimio la Umoja Oka coalition said they disagreed with the various things the Supreme Court said, but accept the final verdict. Let's listen in.
Nataka kujenga institutions zetu, lakini sikubaliani na hao kwa sababu kulikuwa na gaps nyingi, lakini vile washapitisha, wamepitisha. Letu sasa ni hapa Taita Taveta tuangalie jinsi ya kusaidia watoto wa Taita Taveta kupeleka kaunti yetu mbele na ugatuzi mbele.
Vile Supreme Court itakavyoamua tutakubaliana na Kwa hivyo najiunga na wengine kukubaliana na maamuzi ya Supreme Court, japokuwa hayanipi raha moyoni, lakini kwa sababu wameamua vile, mimi naomba wengine kuwa tumunge mkono rais mteule na tutafanya naye kazi.
Rais mteule Daktari William Ruto basi amethibitishwa kuwa ndio kiongozi wetu, ndio president wetu. Hii ni nchi ambayo inaongozwa na sheria. Na tunashukuru ya kwamba walichukua mkondo huo wa kwenda kotini, na ninaamini ya kwamba majaji waliokuwa wanashughulika na kesi hiyo basi wameangalia yote ambayo yalikuwa yamesemwa na wale mawakili ambao walikuwa wanasimamia kesi kwa pande zote mbili, na wakatoa uamuzi ambao naamini ya kwamba ni wa haki. Kwa hivyo nasikia tu kumpongeza rais wetu mteule Daktari William Samuel Ruto kwa ajili ya uteuzi huu ambao umeendelea kudhihirika kupitia verdict ambayo tumeipata leo.
Tunampatia kongole rais mteule Dr. William Ruto, na mnafahamu yeye pia ni mkazi wa Taita na Taveta. So tunamkaribisha kabisa, hata yale ambayo tutajadiliana lazima pia yao kimfikia, na kwa sababu kwa uongozini katika national government vilio vingi tumekuwa navyo. Kwa mfano maswala na royalties ya madini, royalties ya wildlife, manake mbuga pori kubwa Kenya nzima iko hapa kwetu, na mmesikia kwamba wananchi wengi wanaumia sana. Leo asikia ng'ombe imeliwa, kesho kutwa nasikia fisi amemaliza mbuzi, lakini compensation ilikuwa haionekani. Najua sasa hayo kwa sababu ni mkazi na anampata pia najua pia tutasaidiana kwa masuala kama hayo.
Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga, alongside several other elected leaders in Nyeri, has welcomed today's Supreme Court ruling that confirmed William Ruto as president-elect. The 7-judge bench, led by Chief Justice Martha Koome, in a unanimous decision, dismissed the petitions that had been filed challenging the declaration of Dr. Ruto as winner of the August 9th presidential election. While welcoming today's court decision, Kahiga maintained that the election was above board and the upholding of the same by the Apex Court attested to the fact. He has lauded the 7 judges for their decision, urging Raila Odinga to accept the verdict.
Siku ya leo tunataka kushukuru koti kuu, the Supreme Court, kwa sababu sababu imepatia heshima matumaini yetu na maono yetu kwa kupitisha kesi hiyo kama ilivyopitisha siku ya leo. Jambo la pili, tunataka kuwashukuru kwa sababu wameweza kupiga muhuri yale tulifanya tarehe 9. Jambo la mwisho, tunataka tumwambie Daktari William Samoei Ruto wakiwa pamoja na Rigathi Gachagua, kabla ya siku 100 tunataka bei ya unga irudi chini. Hao wananchi wameumizwa kutosha, wameumizwa na serikali ya Uhuru Kenyatta wakiwa na Raila, na sasa tunataka bei ya unga irudi chini katika siku 100. Kuna yale tulisema ya bottom up, tunagonjea. Tukitazama tunataka the Hustlers Fund na ianzishwe.
Meanwhile, Kenyans have reacted to the Supreme Court judgment delivered by the 7-judge bench led by CJ Martha Koome. Some were happy that the court dismissed the petitions challenging Ruto's victory, but others said that although they respect the decision by the Supreme Court, they expected a different outcome.
It was not fair, because after all the evidence that the Azimio team has gathered, they have been found that there was no any substantial, something that's strong that can prove their case. So according to me, I'm not happy personally, but that's the will of the court, and also so it's a Supreme Court. So meaning that let us wait the directives of the current president, because he has not spoken. We don't know what is on his mind, and also our leader, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, also to speak.
Judgment ya roho naona mimi ikiwa sawa, as in mini die had support of Raila Odinga, we lost. Judgment ya koti kwa maoni yangu ilikuwa sawa, and what I know, our Supreme Court ni watu wamechipanga, na nimefurahisha venye wameendesha judgment yao, nimeridhika.
Tuko na democracy kwa sababu kuna wale wenye walikuwa wanasema ya kwamba William Samoei Ruto hajulikani mahali penye alitoka kwa sababu si baba yake hajulikani, lakini nimekuja kujua hiyo mambo yenye walikuwa wanasema mambo ya deep state, mambo ya system hai exist. Kwa hivyo naona ya kwamba inji itakuwa na utulivu. William Samoei Ruto atakuwa rais wangu, atakuwa rais wako, atakuwa rais ya kila mmoja.
Let's look at other news now. Mohamed Kajembe, one of the sons of former Changoma MP, the late Ramadan Kajembe, has been charged with assault before a Mombasa court. Kajembe, an employee of the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, was charged with assaulting his stepsister, Durea Salim Idi. He was arraigned before Chief Magistrate Martha Mutuku and denied all 3 counts leveled against him. According to court documents, Durea, who was not injured in the alleged assault, was aboard a private motor vehicle when the accused pelted stones at her vehicle. She was returning home after she had voted at Jomvu Primary School at Jomvuku Ward, Jomvu constituency during the August 9, 2022 general election. The accused was charged with causing damage to the left rear passenger windscreen and the rear windscreen of the vehicle, the property of Ismail Kuno Maalim Mohammed. Now, moving on, Machakos County Governor Wavinya Ndeti has challenged healthcare workers hell-bent to sabotage health efforts to provide better services. Speaking at the Machakos Level 5 Hospital after receiving a consignment of drugs and medical supplies from KEMSA, Wavinya assured residents that she will work round the clock to make sure that Machakos provides the best health services in the county. She also urged all chemists and health facilities that neighbor Machakos Level 5 to desist from buying medical supplies from the public facility. Later on, the governor did an inspection of all county vehicles where she promised to streamline the transport sector in the county.
Leo tumelete madawa yote ile inatakikana ya emergency. Zote ziko hapa. Tumeleta hata hapa kuwa na HIV test kits. Hizo zimeletwa. Tumeleta IV fluids for theater and emergency. Tumeleta mashindano ya maternity na theater. tumeleta injection drugs for sugar, hii ya insulin, wale wako na ugonjwa wa sukari, madawa yamekuja, antibiotics tumeleta, cardiac drugs tumeleta na diabetes. Hiyo ni lot ya kwanza ile imekuja, lakini within this week hizo dawa zingine zote zitakuja. Ningemuuliza mkubwa wa mahospitali na chemist angalia, kwa sababu tunasikia kuna wengine hapa wanauza dawa za hospitali. Yule atashikwa kama anauza dawa za hospitali nje, ama chemist inauza dawa za hospitali. I'm sending a very strong message to you. I will make sure through the right channels hiyo chemist yako imefungwa. Kama kuna mtu atatoa dawa ya hospitali hapa auze nje, ajue kazi yake imefanya nini, imeisha.
And on to business news now. As people continue to venture into real estate and land acquisition, Kenyans have been challenged to seek their financial freedom by acquiring houses. HISOP Chief Executive Officer Naftali Mwangi said paying rent has become burdensome to most people in cities. He spoke over the weekend where the company awarded over 120 title deeds of its previous projects to clients.
Kenye imenileta hapa ni kampuni inaitwa HISOP. HISOP ni kampuni yenye inauza mashamba na tunashukuru sana Mungu kwa sababu ya HISOP wameweza kunipatia shamba. Imegharimu mkono wa Mungu ili nipate shamba na nashukuru sana HISOP kwa sababu ya kunipatia hii title deed.
Leo hii tulikuwa tumekuja kupatiana titles ama vyeti vya kununua mashamba ambao tuwapatia customers. Na pia leo tulitaka kuintroduce kwa financials wetu ambao wanaitwa Tower Sacco kwa sababu hatusimami tu kuuza mashamba, tungependa kujenga manyumba. Na Nakuru peke yake tumeconfirm kujenga nyumba 35 mwaka huu peke yake. Sawa sawa, mwaka huu kabla ishe. You're talking about 3 months time. And so far we have done 15 already complete. So clients wetu karibuni pale ofisini, we have this intimate conversation ili we turn plots into homes. Yeah, the plan is to do every county. Remember kila county iko na wafanyikazi ambao wameajiliwa na county. Na hii itakuwa very great movement. Kama kuna kitu ambao inafanya watu wawe maskini, ni kitu inaitwa rent. Kwa sababu kweli inaonyesha kwamba Kenyans use about 40% of their income for rental fees. Kama unalipwa shilingi 1,100 unatumia about 40,000. So owning a house is the biggest step towards financial freedom.
All right, with that, we've come to the end of this live broadcast of Newswatch tonight. Many thanks for watching this particular broadcast. My name is Tony Omondi. Our sign language interpreter has been Boniface Murithi. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time. Have a good night and God bless.